And what it will most likely appear as is a personalized digital assistant.
Yeah, right.
That knows your preferences.
Knows you better than you know.
You know yourself.
Correct.
Exactly.
So when that happens, I mean, what's great about this is everything that the wealthy had. Somebody who is their personal assistant, knows and thinking, and like I got you covered on this. You can now have, most likely for free or for very low cost, in the future. So it's fantastic, but it's also, it knows you. Where is the beginning and end of free will? Is that my choice, or have I been kind of manipulated into that choice?
Of course.
You're never going to get people to say, oh, I'm not going to use that. You'll get people to say, that sounds bad, but they'll still use it.
The convenience factor is too high, precisely. Yeah. This is where the credibility of the service provider is so important. Who is a good custodian of our data and information? And when the best place to look, the easiest place to look and understand that is, what's the business model? How do they make money? I'll give you an example. Apple historically has been a great custodian of our information. Why? Because they don't sell our data for advertising revenues. Facebook and Google will want you to think that they're magnanimous, that they are here for the greater good of mankind. Facebook's mission, and I'll paraphrase this, is to empower people to connect and bring the world closer together. Google's mission, I love this, Google's mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and usable.
It's fantastic.
Sounds wonderful, doesn't it?
Totally great.
I want more of that.
I do.
But more than 99% of their revenues come from data surveillance, collecting our most private information, packaging and selling it to anyone who's willing to pay for it.
That's terrifying.
It is.
And yet, I still use Google. I don't have Google Home. I don't. Nest freaks me out.
Honestly, I would never touch a Nest. I would never touch a Nest.
Thank you for saying this. People think,
No.
I have good friends who are like, Glenn, I'm like, listen, I'm telling you, unless you want all of your conversations, well, we don't have anything. We're not like you. We're not celebrities, whatever. And I'm like, A, I ain't a celebrity. B, stop thinking that way.
Yes.
And they don't. I have good friends who have Nest, who have Google Home. They talk to it all the time. It controls everything in their house. And I'm like, you are going to regret this someday.
Absolutely.
Convince them.
First of all, if we had to choose, let's just say, basic operating principle is stay away from companies whose business model is collecting and selling your data. So we named two already, Facebook and Google.
How about Amazon?
Amazon has traditionally been a very good custodian of our data. So I would put Amazon and Apple in a good bucket for now. Okay. So far, they've been good actors.
Yeah, but for now.
I hope they stay that way, because otherwise we won't have any choices.
Right.
But right now, those are the products that I would put in my home.
Okay.
And feel comfortable about it. So instead of a Nest, go with an Ecobee, which was acquired by Amazon.
So why should you be worried about having the new TV from Facebook? And so what they're listening to, that's going to provide you with that digital assistant that's going to be able to book your trip to Hawaii and tell you how to pay for it.
Sure. Just chat with it and it's done. It's so easy. Anyone on Earth, this is the great thing about both 5G wireless technology and the advancements in artificial intelligence hardware and software. And when I say hardware, I'm referring to specifically semiconductors. By the next generation of phones that come out, you will have an artificial intelligence enabled supercomputer in your hand, capable of running any digital assistant.
The next generation?
Yes, coming out in 2020, within the next 12 months. And the current forecast for 2020 are at least 300 million 5G-enabled handsets. So the explosion is literally happening in the next 12 months. We're off to the races.
What is that going to mean?
Um,
You mean upside and downside?
Well, you gave a great example of services that were only available to the very wealthy.
Right.
A butler,
Right.
a personal assistant, will literally be in the hand of anyone who can afford or get access to a smartphone.
And it's not like a calendar service. It's AI.
It is full-blown AI with the ability to do those tasks that consume, on average, 2 or 3 hours of our time a day.
If you had a Centurion black card, an American Express black card, you have access to the concierge.
Concierge, yes. Okay?
That's your phone will do that, and it'll be easy.
Absolutely. Natural language. So, in fact, the last 18 months have been spectacular in terms of the advancements that have been made in what's called NLP, or natural language processing, which is the artificial intelligence that's used to understand, interpret, and act upon human speech. And
I don't know. I hear my wife. She uses Alexa. I've got Alexa, or I've got Siri turned off because she's constantly going, "No, Siri, no, call mom, call mom." Those days are shortly.
Oh yes, those will come to an end very, very soon. And Apple, ironically, underinvested on artificial intelligence for many years. They've actually been playing catch up. Amazon, of all companies, actually has made tremendous progress, as has Google.
But before we leave security and data security, wouldn't it be reasonable to secure our data by saying, I can sell you my data, but if I move from one place, I take my data with me. I own my data. And if I want you to be able to sell it, you could sell it. I could even sell it in a block with a bunch of other people.
Yes.
Yes.
But
I own my data.
Correct.
Why don't we, is there ever been anybody who is like trying to get that legislation passed? Because that's the way to cripple companies that are misusing our data.
I'm glad you brought this up. There's two interesting developments. So first of all, this is being talked about, especially with regards to healthcare data, healthcare portability.
I just read somebody's already going in and taking our records.
There's a horrific thing that was just announced that's worth talking about, actually. So Google had been very quietly, secretively working with a major health provider called Ascension in the United States to get access to all of the healthcare records through their medical system. Millions of records from Ascension. So this is where it's interesting. Exactly. It gets worse because they have the names of the patients. So it's not anonymized. They have the complete healthcare record, all of their visits, any procedures that have been done, any diagnoses that might indicate, future health conditions, maybe high risk for cancer, for example. They have the names and the birth dates of everyone, and it's all under the guise of HIPAA, the 1996 Healthcare Act. And there's this very nuanced language in HIPAA that says, basically, the healthcare provider can share the patient data without the physician or the patient's consent, as long as the use of that data is to support the mission of the healthcare facility.
Oh my gosh.
Right, incredibly loose language that was written back in 1996. And it provides for no privacy whatsoever. And obviously, Google figured this out and struck this deal with Ascension And of course, I'm sure the sales pitch was, we have this incredible artificial intelligence technology. We can help you affect better healthcare outcomes, right?
Sure.
Just give us the data. We'll take it. Frightening, right? And so, of course, the talk in the industry is every American should be able to take all of their healthcare records with them so that when they go to a new provider, they don't have to fill out 100 forms. They can just provide the data, get everybody up to speed. Healthcare portability, right? It makes sense. It's not just insurance, but actually your information. It's your data. So there's that initiative that's very kind of industry focused. Healthcare seems to be the primary target, but there's a whole other group in the technology industry that wants to basically retain all of our data, the data that has been taken from us without consent from companies like Facebook and Google, allow us to have our data back, and then give us the choice to opt in or not.
Correct.
And so you mentioned Google before. There's actually a company out there called Brave. They have an internet browser, a search engine. And they have a neat function that allows you to opt in and determine which information you would like to share. And you can actually get paid for opting into the network. The way they make those payments is through a digital currency, a form of cryptocurrency. And if you opt in, you get paid every month small amounts for your participation in the network.
This is reasonable.
It's very reasonable. And I think, in fact, it's the future. It's going to take time to unseat Google from their current business model. But I do believe this will be cracked. I think we'll be given the choice to, whether or not we'd like to opt in our LinkedIn profile or our Facebook profile or our searching.
10 years ago, I said to Ray Kurzweil, Ray, I know you don't believe by 2030 there will be death, and he believes in the singularity of man and machine coming together. And I talked to him about, what about free will? What about being manipulated subtly, especially if they're in your head? What makes you believe that if I could make you into a monkey by turning off your access to AI, and you're not able to understand everything that's going around, who should have that power to be able to do that? And he said, well, we would do that. And I said, okay, well, what would make you think that if I'm trying to come up with a competitor to Google, and Google knows I'm doing it because their AI is saying, look what this guy is doing, I'll never beat them because they're monitoring me and they're taking my ideas for free, and what makes you think that they won't shut him off? And his response was, well, we just won't. And I said, Ray, I know the slogan used to be, don't be evil, but people generally go bad when they have that much power. The power that we're talking about is staggering.
It is staggering.
And we're not even scratching the surface. I mean, let's go back to quantum computing.
Okay.
How far are we away from quantum computing really making all encryption,
rendering it meaningless,
meaningless,
right? For many years, a couple decades, when people refer to kind of military-grade encryption, it's called 256-bit encryption. That's kind of like the standard for security and encryption technology. All sorts of nuances around that, not very relevant. The quantum computer that Google built is a 53 qubit quantum computer. It actually was 54, but one of the bits didn't work. So we had 53 functioning qubits. At a very high level, the moment that we build, by the way, a 53-bit quantum computer can crack 256-bit encryption, just to be very clear.
How fast?
It'll take some time. Let's say a matter of hours, maybe more than a day, but it's not a long period of time. Let's just say loosely less than 48 hours.
This is our starter set.
Yeah,
this is our. These are the
training wheels. So imagine the moment. And by the way, we are not far away. This is what, to your point, I'm incredibly amazed people haven't written about this. It's not a big leap to get. Once you have a functional quantum computer, it's not a big leap to get from 53 to 256.
Right.
The moment you have 256, you can crack that encryption software in milliseconds. It's over. And so what I can tell you right now, the industry, especially the cybersecurity industry, is scrambling right now because we have a massive problem on our hands and we haven't figured out how to solve it yet. And we have to do something. We literally